Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Gotham, the latest episode of Van Helsing, as well as the latest episode of Arrow. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of Gotham, you can skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of Van Helsing, and or skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of Arrow. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Gotham, this being the fall finale, a great finale all around. So much good stuff, like for one, the Dawn popping up. And it's so interesting to me, really quickly, like breaking everything down, like the Dawn popping up, Falcone, because in my mind, I thought, at first, because I threw out there, it's like, oh yeah, like, Sophia killed, her dad. Like, I was like, oh, because her being here, because he was so, adamant about her not, stepping into this world and everything. But then it's like, obviously, last episode, it's like the way Penguin was throwing his name around and the way Sophia was at. It's like, no, he's still around. But what surprised me is the fact is that he knew about this. He wasn't okay with it at first, but he was like, all right, fine, I'll let you do it and prove yourself. But she let him down with the way he was handling things. And I thought that was so interesting how things kind of played out like that. Like, I thought she did everything behind his back. And so ultimately, when it came down to it, it's like, oh, Falcone gets shot. It's like, Penguin didn't do it. I could tell from the beginning. It's like, I've been saying it from the beginning. I knew eventually at some point in time she's going to kill her dad, especially when he pulled her away from this whole thing, making a deal with Penguin behind her back and everything, slapping her, almost humiliating her. It's like, if you weren't my daughter, I would have killed you. And it's just because he didn't recognize her abilities and I guess ultimately for her, it's like, it makes you wonder, did her dad know from the beginning her entire plan? Like, really, because really quickly, I thought what was going to happen is they were going to leave town and then she was going to kill her dad on the way out of town. Didn't expect her to do it before they even left Gotham. Because for him, he doesn't want Gotham anymore. It's just like the city's not worth it anymore. Like, I think maybe in the past there was some light left in Gotham, a city that was worth controlling, worth being there for, but there's just been nothing but darkness subsequently since. It's cost him his son, and he's just like, I'm dying already, so I don't want to waste any more time, spend time with my daughter, essentially. So that's all that really mattered to him. But he said a line to Jim I thought was kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't kill you because now you get to suffer, essentially, because it's like you don't even realize what you brought to Gotham. Now, immediately I was thinking, like, is he talking about Sophia? But he's taking Sophia away, so like, what's the problem there? I guess maybe he ultimately knew her entire plan because it turns out, for one, she's connected to Pig. Didn't see that coming. Like, I knew this whole situation, like the funeral and everything. Because for one, like, Penguin respects Carmine like too much. I mean, let's not forget he secretly worked with Carmine like in the beginning of the season, like the series. So there's that whole aspect. But because he's never really went up against Carmine like that, just because he did respect him. And so it turns into that whole situation of like, you could see that Sophia was still manipulating Jim, getting the like, yes, he probably saw through it a little bit. Like, yeah, this is just me playing more into Sophia's hands, but he didn't realize to what scale he was playing into her hands. Because in his eyes, it's like, well, Penguin's going to kill her. It's like, no, I'm not going to let him kill her. Which ultimately, when it's all said and done, there might be a part of Jim later on. It's like, yeah, I should have kind of let Penguin do that. But it's like, no, he did the right thing because he's a good guy, and like doing things like that would just kind of be sliding backwards for him. So, and then there's two things that did surprise me. One was the fact is that she worked with Pig, that this whole thing was orchestrated by her. That blew me away because I was wondering about this whole Pig situation. Like it played a small part in the episode. I was like, oh, I guess that's supposed to be set up for when the show comes back. It's like, no, it's set up for now because she helped Laszlo create it. Because Laszlo just adopts the personalities of serial killers. I think that's his shtick. Because it's like, oh, why does he change his thing? Well, he changed it more so because it was like, it fit the narrative that he needed to commit in this case. So, also throwing Martine against Penguin, and then it's like, well, no, Martine's not dead. It's like, see, tell him, Victor. Yep, I'm surprised you killed that kid. I'm not gonna go down for you killing a kid. I'm like, oh, Victor's betrayal. I kind of saw it coming because Victor was like, you didn't kill Carmine, did you? And Penguin was like, no. So it either means that from the very beginning, like, he knew that Penguin didn't, or maybe he truly believes that Penguin did. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, ultimately, when it's all said and done, he's serving Sophia because he's always been loyal to the Falcones. And it's like, you've kind of truly shown your true faith. So I'm thinking it must be the fact is that Victor just doesn't know. I don't know. It's really hard to say in this situation. It's this episode once again. I'm not surprised. I knew she was not to be messed with even from the very beginning. And in this episode, she showed just how deadly she is, that everything was planned out. The manipulation runs deeper than you thought, because this wasn't about just returning to Gotham to take control of it. It was partially that, but the biggest part of all of this was her revenge. This was all to put Jim in a position, because it's like, oh yeah, basically all the cops, all that unfolding, it's because you brought me into town. So basically, and it's something Harvey brought up, it's like everything that's happened subsequently is all Jim's fault, because he set everything in motion. Him trying to do the right thing to stop Penguin ultimately calls all this, all the cops that Pig killed and all that, and it all is on him. But he got the GCPD to be good, it's like, as he gave that speech at the beginning, it's like GCPD and Gotham were supposed to be corrupt, and it's like, but look at you guys, you didn't step down when Penguin offered you money. You guys are like, no, we're going to do the right thing, and he was proud of them. So, but now Sophia's like, you could tell them the truth. But that basically, you can arrest me and everything with all this. But ultimately I talk, and then eventually everything will fall. All the good that Jim's built up so far will come crumbling down. GCPD won't follow him anymore. And so Jim goes along with the lie, and it's a tough position, because it's like the GCPD got rid of its corruption in this moment. Like everything is good. They're firing on all cylinders. Everyone's got the good in their heart. But the moment they find out the truth that everything falls back on Jim, it's going to crumble the foundation that he helped just reinstate. So it leaves them in a very compromising position. And it's like, I should have figured as much, because I thought it was strange that she was so forgiving. It's like, oh yeah, like Carmine held such a grudge against him for killing her dad. I mean, for killing Mario. So it's like, now it's like, you're okay with him and even sleeping with him? Like, that's dedication to it, dude. Like, sleeping with the man that you hate. Because I was wondering, I was like, oh, is there an aspect of this that's like, oh, that you actually do care about him some? I also appreciate Barbara, like, when Falcon was like, does that include sleeping with Jim Gordon? Barbara's like, oh, wait, what? It seems like no matter what, I think there will always be something there where Barbara cares about Jim. For her to react like that, like, wait, what? You slept with Jim? What's up with that? It's like you literally haven't been together since what, season 1? Maybe season 2? Definitely season 1. It's like you haven't been together since then, and it's like, I guess there's always going to be something there. There's always a connection. So it sucks, dude, because even when you try to do the right thing, everything comes crumbling down around you. Plus, he doesn't have Harvey by his side anymore, because Harvey's calling it quits, and he turned in his badge and his gun, and it's just like, it's a heavy burden for Jim to carry, and he has to carry that alone now. He has to live with the guilt of knowing that he's living this lie, that basically everything he's built is a lie. So he has to live with that, but still be under Sophia's control, because she holds all the cards and everything. So, like I said, a very, very complicated situation. At the same time, you have Barbara, Selena, and Tabitha kind of moving up in the world, because they basically own what was the iceberg before. Now they kind of got the club again. That club kind of bounces between different people all the time, every season. But nevertheless, that's all laid out like that. You have Tabitha trying to get to Butch, trying to snap him out by like slapping him and knocking him around with like pipes and stuff like that, which she walks away, but it seems at the end of it that he has returned to Butch, because he's like, well, what happened to me? So I'm assuming everything he's done as Solomon Grundy has like disappeared from his mind. So I'm curious to see what that means going forward, because more often than not, when you see Solomon Grundy, he's kind of a mindless person. Like, he really doesn't have much to him in a sense, he's just kind of like, I'm Grundy, so now that Butch is kind of back, it makes you wonder what does that mean going forward, because that means he's going to be Butch's mind inside of Grundy's body with that strength and adorable body. So also, what does that mean going forward for him and Ed, considering the fact is, because, now that he's Butch again, he knows like, oh, Ed did all those terrible things, he tortured me, he cut off Tabitha's hand, so there's that. Also, what is it going to mean now that when Barbara pops up again too? It's like, well, Barbara killed him, so there's all that. So, I mean, to be fair, Barbara got over Tabitha killing her, so. And speaking of Ed, it was kind of interesting seeing that reflection battle between himself, because it's like, he kind of admits that, oh, you actually have feelings for Lee. Didn't see that coming. I guess all this time he spent with her, like, I think he, Lee's like a very beautiful and extremely smart lady, so it's like no surprise there. So I guess like that just kind of resonated, especially because she was there for him in a time he didn't have anyone he could rely on. Plus, she likes Ed as he is now because it's more like the Ed that she used to know. So, I mean, that's really all we got from him in this episode, but that's definitely something we're going to have to be worrying about going forward, as him slipping more back into that Riddler personality. I think certain events around Lee, it might be a similar situation to Penguin and him last season, because the whole Isabella situation kind of brought out the jealousy and Penguin. Maybe something's going to happen with Lee, possibly Lee and Gordon. They still have not crossed paths yet. He still doesn't know that she's backing Gotham. Maybe something like that's going to set him off. Or, I mean, we don't know. It might just take one little bad thing to kind of set him down that path on his own without there being an external force like Lee and Jim meeting up again or something like that. It potentially coming between them. Which, the thing is, I don't think Lee would ever go for Ed anyway. It's like, oh yeah, you're back to the Ed you were before, but it still doesn't change the fact that you killed Kirsten, her friend. So, and then there's also the other side of the episode that deals with Bruce and Alfred, and this pretty much is like, oh god, Bruce, you're acting like such a little douchebag, like such a little asshole, like treating Alfred more like a butler than rather treating him like the family that he is. And so it leads to, Alfred trying to give him some tough love. It's like, okay, we'll go to Switzerland, kind of get your mind clear. You'll be back to the same old Master B that you used to be. But Bruce doesn't want that, and so they get into a fight. And he headbutts Alfred, which kind of pisses Alfred off, and just Alfred punches him, which immediately in my brain, I'm like, he kind of deserved that for being the little shit he's been acting lately. It's like, I get it. You're caught up in this whole, like, what you did situation, but it's like, it still doesn't change the fact is that you're acting the way that you are. I'm like, I get it, you're hurting. And even Alfred can see it. It's like you're partying, you're saying you're enjoying everything. You're not thinking about your family. You're not thinking about Ra's al Ghul. The fact of the matter is you're just drowning yourself while you're literally miserable. And so what does Bruce do? It's like, I was like, oh man, hopefully this snaps him out of it. It's like, no, makes matters worse because he emancipates himself and basically fires Alfred. So now Bruce literally only has himself, because now he's basically cut himself off from everyone in his life. The last standing person in his life was Alfred, and now it's like he's only got himself. So then on top of that, we do have the ending of the episode, which ends with Penguin locked up in Arkham, and lo and behold, who is his roommate, Jerome. Which is, I'm so curious what they're doing with Jerome, because I thought they were setting Jerome up to be like, oh, he's not the Joker, like he's wink the Joker, but not really the Joker, like he's what inspires the Joker. It's kind of how they've kind of set him up. But now, like, obviously seeing previews of like the show when it returns and everything, he's flashing around the Joker card. So I think it's like, maybe it's definitely all kind of along those pseudo lines. Either way, we have him returning to the show, and I'm very interested to see what they do with this whole situation. I am surprised that Pig is dead. Didn't see that coming. Thought he'd be like kind of around, but he's going now, so one less problem to deal with. But that problem disappearing just led to other bigger problems. So I'm so curious to see what happens. The show is returning this spring. No specific date at the time of me recording this that I know of. Just all the TV said was this spring. So I'm very interested. Some things popped up in the previews. Obviously, I won't talk about it too much just because of like, well, there was one thing in particular that popped out. I was like, wait, what? I was dealing with a character that's popped up in the show already, but they've changed. I'll leave it at that. So curious to see like how this all plays out going forward. Like I say, at this point, we basically have Sophia stepping into the main villain role. Question is, how will Jim take her down? Will he eventually tell everyone the truth? Because that's the only way to take her down is by admitting the truth and worrying about what's going to happen to the GCP afterwards, what's going to happen between him and Harvey, where they stand at this whole point in time. Sadly, we will just have to wait and see. It's probably going to be a little while, but I'm super excited to see where the rest of the season takes us when it returns. And now moving on to this week's episode of Van Helsing, a very good episode. A lot of interesting things we learned in this episode. Let's kind of break everything down bit by bit. I kind of feel bad for that one deputy that was left, because basically everyone else there got massacred. I thought there was at least two or three that were running in front of them, but maybe that was just my imagination, like when they were escaping. But that one dude was like, oh man, hey, bring this dude along. It's like, at least he's the last surviving deputy, but then he ended up getting bit, and then Doc had to shoot him, which is I think that's the first time Doc, I think on multiple levels that scene represents many things. One, it's the first time Doc's ever had to kill anyone. She's never had to kill anyone. She's come across, I'm trying to think, has Doc ever really killed vampires before by herself? Like, really? I don't know. I can't remember quite. I don't vividly remember her like taking on vampires specifically. I don't know. I think it's that, plus the fact of the matter is she's never, like, the fact is he wasn't a vampire yet, he was a person. That's the first time she's ever killed a person. Maybe it also makes her think back to, what was the dude's name? Wasn't it Smitty? The dude that she was pushing out, trying to close the door and got bit for, so maybe it makes her think of that. Maybe a combination of all of that. It's also pretty brutal when you saw Julius, like, punching, the sheriff who was turned into a vampire, like punching him with those gauntlets he made. You saw his eye gonna pop out too, so that's pretty brutal. But I really love, like, this episode too was a bit of bonding between Julius and Doc. I love that dynamic, especially him just eating chips. And he's like, oh my god, it's so good, like sour cream and onion, and it's like nacho, and she's like, nacho cheese, and he was like, oh, nacho cheese, and it's just like loving it and enjoying it. He ended up bringing up Doc and Axel too. It's like, oh, what kind of history you guys have? I mean, we know, but Doc's not really the one to talk about it because it's such a history that she regrets. Because I doubt Julius really knows everything about what happened with Axel too and everything. So he attacked the hospital. It's not like he knew everything that was going down in the hospital. So it is slightly depressing though, because it does seem like Julius might be dead. I'm not sure. Like, it's really hard to say. Like, he was thrown against a tree and we kind of heard a crack, but it seemed like he was still alive. But I don't know. Like, because the thing is, Julius is pretty big and burly, so, I mean, I doubt, like, Dimitri bothered to try and, I don't know, because it's that situation of, like, Dimitri didn't outright kill him, so maybe Dimitri comes back and drag his body off somewhere. Maybe he actually knows, maybe he could hear Julius's heartbeat and knows that he's actually still alive, but just doing it to freak out Doc. Because, Dimitri is like, oh, look at this monster that Julius was. And then, Doc's like, no. I mean, Dimitri is like, look at this monster that Julius is. And Doc's like, no, he's not the monster. Not anymore, because Vanessa kind of helped him return to who he was. Because him and Doc had that conversation about darkness. And for him, it's like being a vampire was his darkness. But for Doc, it's like she had that dark side in her. Like, going back to the old Smitty thing. Like, that whole thing was kind of the first step in darkness for her. And that was before she even became a vampire. So I don't know. I hope Julius isn't dead. I hope, because like that's, I mean, because also specifically what he represents too, it's like he represents Vanessa's, like I said, army to a certain extent, because you have him, Axel, Doc, and Flash, rather Phil. I mean, to be fair, she kind of already lost one, and that was when Susan died. So it's like her army's gone a short one. But it's like there's this connection. So part of me is like, the fact is you were saved. There's no way you're gonna die. It's like, well, don't forget Susan died. So so I don't know about that. Dimitri does have the key, and he hopes that basically when it's all said and done, this is all for the purpose of getting to the Elder, so that he can wake up the Elder and be rewarded. Because it's like, because if he can get an Elder on his side, because obviously the Elders are probably like the most powerful vampires ever. It's like, if he can get an Elder on his side, then, or does he plan on, like, can vampires take other people's strength, like Vanessa, like how she can drink human blood and get super strong? It's like, could vampires do the same thing? I would assume not, because Dimitri and his sister had that weird relationship like that. So they would drink each other's blood and stuff like that. So it was like nothing happened to them. So, but I mean, would it be different when it's an Elder? Probably not. Makes you wonder, what differentiates an Elder from a regular vampire? I mean, we still have yet to really know what Dimitri's start is. We know how Julius starts, because next to Dimitri, Julius is one of the next in line when it comes to this whole situation of, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll get an episode this season kind of diving deeper into their past. I don't know, we'll just kind of have to wait and see that from. But it's just like, what's the difference between an Elder? Like, how old is an Elder in comparison, Because I don't remember they said specifically how old Dimitri is. I think maybe last season they might have said like he was like hundreds of years old, but it's like, does that mean like an Elder's thousands or something? Like, how did the whole situation come to be? And what makes them so different? Like, obviously that's typically how vampire stuff goes. Like, the older you are, the more powerful you are. But I don't know. That also must mean that the sisterhood must be more powerful than Dimitri, because we ended up learning about them in this episode. That the fact of the matter is that they can take a lot of damage. Like, they were getting shot at like crazy, but the bullets were kind of phasing through them. It's like, are they almost like, it seems like they're almost like ghosts, which is like, no vampire is like them. So it's like, how are they the way they are? It's almost like they're a different breed. I mean, like, because even, I mean, to be fair, we haven't really seen Dimitri take normal damage. The last time we saw Dimitri really take any heavy damage, it was against Vanessa. She was souped up and she punched a hole in him. That's about it. So that's kind of a crazy, extreme circumstance. So it's no, like, I don't know what to gauge that against, like against like a weapon or a blade or even like, you know, bullets, like what that would do to Dimitri. So. But also the fact is that the sister, I mean, it seems like they are at least 200 years old because obviously they predate the Rising as well. But also it seems like they have this weird thing where they don't cross holy ground because even they respect the dead, which is like, what is up with that? At the same time, it's like, oh yeah, they're such badasses. But at the same time, it's like, get someone like, what's his name? Scab, the dude that's leading the sisterhood now. It's like he ended up killing Maya like it was nothing. It's like I said, it's so weird the consistency of like how strong vampires are. I mean, you can kill them with bullets, but it takes quite a bit to kind of I guess you have to damage their body enough that they can't regenerate from it. I don't know. But also in this episode, it was a big episode to learn more about Scarlet and Axel. We ended up finding out because it is a question that is like never really was answered. Why did Axel stay behind and look after Vanessa for 3 years? Obviously, you had Ted in season 1 kind of finally losing because it's like, okay, we were stuck like this for so long, for 3 years, and for what? For nothing, like for someone that's not going to wake up and stuff like that. Yet Axel never stopped. He stayed there, and it's like, why? You didn't receive any orders. You could have easily abandoned your mission. So it's like, is it just him being a good soldier or what? He basically ends up bringing up the fact is that obviously he's the only person in his family that was in the military, and like that comes through Scarlet because it's like that dedication. It has to be a family of military people to make you the way you are. But it seems like it's tied to his sister. When he was 13 years old, he was responsible for his sister, and he dropped her off at a park so he could go play with other kids. But when he came back, his sister was gone. And it's probably like the biggest regret of his life. People telling him it's not his fault, but she was his responsibility, and he let her down, and she's gone, never to be seen again. So maybe with this whole situation with Vanessa, it's like her circumstances being whatever they are, is like she needs protecting, and I need to be here. I'm not going to abandon her like I abandoned my sister. So maybe that's what he saw. Like maybe, I don't know, whether it runs deeper than that or not. I don't know. I kind of like him and Scarlet hooked up this episode, which I'm not too surprised about because it's like you could already feel it, like especially last episode, the flirtation and stuff like that. And then you have that moment of it, like, they're making out and everything. She's like, whoa, you haven't, like, you know, you and Vanessa. And he's like, no, they're not even close, which is like true. I mean, like, I don't think Vanessa hasn't even slept with anyone since then. When I was watching episodes, like, yeah, she slept with Susan. I'm like, right, her and Susan never slept together. I mean, they slept together, but they never slept together. They only kissed, didn't they? Because I always like, especially the first season, I always thought something was going to happen between Axel and Vanessa. But then like the whole Doc situation happened, and then that kind of cut a big streamline into that's not going to happen. Then it's like, oh, he's at the end of the season, he's actually alive. He's nevertheless, you know. But yeah, a big part of this episode was more so learning about Scarlet, seeing her situation. It's kind of interesting looking at her experience versus Vanessa's. Vanessa lived her whole life being normal. Obviously, there was like, I think bits and pieces here and there of her Van Helsing side would come out, especially because she had a very short temper. We saw that when it came to Vanessa, and when that whole confrontation between Vanessa and Susan's boyfriend or whatever at that time, who was very abusive, like the way she kind of got super pissed. And it's like she always kind of had it seems like that, and that whole scene like was kind of like, okay, like Vanessa's always kind of had to deal with her anger issues, so it seems like it was a byproduct, but obviously she didn't know. No, Scarlett's been hunting vampires ever since she was little. Like her father raised her to believe like, no, you need to be prepared for this. Vanessa she woke up to this, so it's kind of an interesting thing because you had like Scarlett knowing that this was coming, living her entire life like a freak, and then the time comes, even she admits like, yeah, she kind of likes the Rising because it's like, well, she doesn't have to feel like a freak anymore, because it's like, well, she's in the same boat as everyone else, except she's better off because she was well trained for this since she was a little kid. Whereas Vanessa kind of woke up to this world and it just kind of all hit her at once. So, but don't get me wrong, they both had their own harsh realities to deal with. Her basically having to live this life as a freak because everyone called her Scary Scarlet. having to burn down their house, having to kill a vampire, even though she's never killed anyone before, having to slice his head off, burn the body with her house, and basically leave and up and leave her entire life behind. And it's like she never had a chance to live a normal life. Vanessa did, but then that normal life turned upside down. So really, it's hard to say who had it. They both had it bad, but it's like, you know, they had it in reverse order. Scarlet, tough upbringing, feeling like a freak, growing to like, hey, I can kick ass because this is the world I was meant to fight in. Whereas Vanessa led a normal life and just kind of like, oh, here's this crazy world, where's my daughter, you know, that type of thing. So, because in one particular scene we saw back in like 96 of some vampires tracking her down, it does beg the question, how did that particular vampire track her down? She was so well hidden. It's like, because that's the thing, like, how did that happen and not Vanessa? Like, Vanessa must have been deep undercover. Or was it specifically her dad that they were after? Like, they knew that he had Scarlet, but it's like maybe it was easy to track him because he's connected to that whole situation. Him adopting her wasn't an accident. It was like he had a connection to the whole, like, you know, the farm whole situation, the whole farm situation. So, but Vanessa was probably completely unconnected because she was thrown into the system and everything. So she was completely hidden, whereas Scarlet was hidden probably on a surface level. So maybe that's kind of how that happened. But because that's the thing, like, no vampires ever came after Vanessa until like they got a taste of her blood, like before the Rising started, and then that one vamp came and drank her blood because she was selling her blood for money and stuff like that. So also, it seems like she's had that sword for a very long time. Scarlet. Not unless that's a different sword, but it looks like it's possibly the same sword, which means she's had that sword for like, what, 20 years? I don't know. Could, like, even if you sharpened a sword, would a sword like that still be good after 20 years? I don't know. Maybe it's just showing that, like, because she was so good with a sword for all those years, it's like obviously she'd keep one around now. But it was pretty impressive seeing her and Axel go up against the sisters. Axel wearing money as a vest. I thought that was pretty neat. But then we had that moment, which is kind of interesting that the sisters still bit Scarlet. I guess they felt like maybe because Scarlet's different from Vanessa. It's like maybe you only have to worry about the Van Helsing blood kicking in when she was with Vanessa, but not her. Or, you know, because it's like, or no, because they're ignorant too. Like, they don't know. Well, did they ever? They never actually explained that to him. I'm trying to think about when the sisterhood first popped up. That was never like. The dude Scab brought up the fact is, it's like, oh no, there's a Van Helsing. He never brought up or did he bring up the fact is that she could turn him human? I don't remember. And maybe it was never expressly explained to them, like, oh, like if she bites you or you bite them, they turn you human again. So one of them bites him because it's like, oh, you'll join the sisterhood, but it's like it backfires. And I was like, holy crap! I was expecting her to turn the sister that bit her to turn back into a human. Wasn't expecting her wounds to regenerate. And it's like, wait, what does that mean? And then she immediately kind of gets aggressive after. She's like, come on, come back here. And it's like, you know, that's what happened when Vanessa kind of woke up too. Like she got super aggressive. It just, like I said, it just. Scarlet saying it happened because Vanessa bit her. So I was like, so what does that mean? So like, is it something like, it seemed like it was, so it did seem like it was just Vanessa, but it seems like when Vanessa bit her, she transferred it. And so whatever's inside Vanessa, maybe it mixes weirdly with Van Helsing DNA. Maybe it's kind of like a virus. At the moment Vanessa bit her, it like transferred over and it's slowly been mutating this entire time. And the moment that Scarlet got bit, it interacted with vampire blood. It kind of like, you know, I don't know, it triggered some like chemical reaction in her for it to happen. So it's like, because even Scarlet was like, yeah, like I cut myself before and like, you know, I've gotten cut before and it's like, I didn't, like my wounds didn't heal immediately like it did with her neck. So it's like, how does that whole thing work? Like, because I was thinking like, okay, maybe it's some, because, you know, obviously there's a whole vampiric side of Vanessa. I was like, okay, so maybe the fact of the matter is that's just like something, the rapid healing and stuff like that. It's only Vanessa. That's like, so, but maybe there's also aspects of maybe that actually belong to Van Helsing's in general too. But it seems like that's not the case. So it's just like, I mean, more so it is because there is that vampiric side. Maybe that transfer still exists. Like vampires biting you means that they turn you. So I guess the same would apply even if someone's not fully a vampire, that they are something else. And, you know, Vanessa being something else. I don't know. That whole situation is so fascinating to me that it worked out like that. I mean, ultimately, the episode basically ends off with that situation. I mean, now it's up. They still got to find Vanessa while they're heading to Crooked. God, I forgot the place. Crooked something. That's kind of the last kind of a safe haven place. But now that Julius is quote unquote dead, which I don't think he is. I'm hoping he's not. It's all about, trying to track down Vanessa. We haven't gone back to Flesh and Lucky yet. So, and also Muhammad, we don't know what's going on with him and Sam. So, a lot of stuff we still got to fill in. But like I said, overall, a really good episode. I'm very interested to see where it goes down next episode, where all this takes us to. And now moving on to this week's episode of Arrow. This week's episode was the mid-season finale, and continue with the trend. A great mid-season finale with a lot of stuff that went down this episode. I do appreciate this episode kind of hits you harder with a gut punch because it's like, the beginning, it's like all the wedding stuff. It's like, everyone's together, which is also interesting. Like, when did that whole Felicity's dad situation happen? I don't remember that happening. Is that something that happened outside of the show or what? Maybe it did happen within the show and I just don't remember. I forgot when the last time her dad showed up. Wasn't it season 4 when he helped out with that whole situation in season 4? I don't remember. That just kind of interested me. And also the whole like weirdness between Quentin and Dawn. I thought that was kind of interesting. But nevertheless, you have all that fun stuff at the beginning. I mean, Curtis being a little drunk and that speech about, being so hurt and everything. Because obviously, like, he's going through a divorce and everything. Then you have Renee giving that awesome speech and just calling Oliver and Felicity, just the whole team, as friends, which is like, you've never heard him talk like that. And it's like, that's so sweet. Then you have Dinah talk. It's just all around. It was also kind of interesting that they met a couple from Ivytown. I'm assuming that's the town that, I don't remember, but I guess that's the town that Oliver and Felicity moved between season 3 and season 4, like where we picked up at the beginning of season 4, that place they were at. I assume that's what they were talking about respectively. And I feel like, see, I told you they were just going to get married, that, they would get past that rough patch and get married, so. Nevertheless, I did appreciate that, but all that kind of came crumbling down when it turns out that someone on the team betrayed them. And Oliver, rather than confronting the teams in particular, he basically has everyone surveilled. Turns out it gets revealed about Dinah meeting with Vigilante. Curtis and Renee had that whole talk about the fact of the matter is there anything, would life be better without Team Arrow and stuff like that? Obviously, everything pointed to Dinah at first. I was like, no. It's like, how do you know this isn't Evelyn? Which we still haven't decided, brought up where she is. I can only assume it's she's locked up in Argus somewhere, and her, like I said, we still never got back to anyone else's situation on Lian. The only person on Lian that we know definitively that died was Samantha, and Laurel got her way off the island. That's about it. So we're still kind of in the dark a little bit about everyone else, like Nissa and Talia and Evelyn, for example. Because I was so sorry. I was like, it's either them or it's Caden because he knows the truth about you. So, but it's like, the real I didn't expect Renee to admit it either, but when he actually admits it, because it brought up something too. I was like, why is Renee saying life would be better without Team Arrow? It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, it's not like his life was all that cool before he went all wild dog and became a vigilante. That's what I was curious about, but it's like, now it makes more sense because he got caught up in Team Arrow. Now it puts his future in jeopardy with his daughter Zoe, because it's like Watson has all this evidence and stuff like that. I'm like, because I knew it had to be about his daughter. Because there's nothing else that would kind of push Renee to make a betrayal like that. And it's just like, man, even at that point in the episode, you could already tell things were going to be bad for Team Arrow. It's because they spied on them, Felicity and Diggle and Oliver, because now it turns into a situation that we thought we had dealt with before, but now it's back again, is Team OG Arrow versus Team Newbies, and especially it's us because Dinah went through so much to talk to Vincent about it. It's like, yo, Vince, you don't know Oliver. He pulled me back from a dark place, kept me from becoming you. But all that goodwill is thought out with it, especially when Oliver's like, oh, you haven't done anything to earn my trust. It's like, what are you talking? She's been by your sides all this time. Even Diggle's she had my back during everything. But I guess for Oliver, it's the fact that she's been lying this entire time just kind of undoes all that good stuff. I could immediately tell with everything they set up with Vince already. I was like, no, she's going to end up joining up with Vince and kind of leaving Team Arrow behind. Like, everyone has their respective reasons for not being with Team Arrow. I was hoping when it was all said and done, I was like, when Thea kind of talked to Oliver, which is kind of a, like, it's showing that, like, oh yeah, like, she's back to kind of give her brother advice. And I was like, okay, it's like, you understand where Renee's coming from. That's a good thing. Because Oliver knows, because he's put his son before Team Arrow before. Granted, it's not been a situation of like, I put my son first for the aspect of betraying Team Arrow. It's like, no, this is for me. But he understands because it's like everything Renee did, he did for his daughter, a life with her, like no, not missing a chance out on her. So, you know, Oliver can understand that, like that parental need to protect your child and be there for your child, do anything for your child. It's like, but it's something that Renee also was like, well, the fact of the matter is, like, when you go through tough times, like, that's what a team is there for, to have your back. And I think it's something that kind of resonated a little bit with Dinah, but, you know, maybe it just kind of got pushed out of her mind. It's like, she could have come to the team about her whole situation with Vincent. They would have understood, especially Diggle, because he was the one that was pushing for her not to look at Vigilante as just Vigilante, to tap into the whole Vincent aspect. But the entire time she kept that secret, which is, once again, it's funny you say all that, considering the fact is, it's like Diggle and Oliver, two prime examples of keeping secrets. Oliver's literally got in trouble multiple times for keeping secrets. That has been to the detriment of the team. The only one I can think of is season 3. The whole, like, him joining the League of Assassins, becoming the next Ra's al Ghul, that whole situation, being the heir and everything, like, to me, that was, like, the only thing. But still, like, he's kept secrets before, but never to this detrimental level as, like, I don't know. It's like, it's one of those situations, it's like, if Oliver had handled things differently, like, Diggle was like, tell everyone, as we could see, like, Renee was, I mean, to be fair, who knows, like, if the circumstances were different, maybe Renee wouldn't have ever told the truth, so... It's a situation that leaves you conflicted. Ultimately, when it was all said and done, it's like when you had them coming together as a team to save Lance from that whole Caden situation, I was like, oh boy, I was like, okay, hopefully they can work past it. Things will be a little awkward. Sadly, things didn't work out because when it was all said and done, like Curtis and Renee kind of went off on their own. Only one that had Oliver's back was Dinah, but that still didn't change later on for her leaving. And it's just... This is the second time we've seen Team Arrow, like, broken like this. The last time we saw it was the end of season 4, because everyone scattered and went their own directions at the end of season 4, doing respective things. And now, you know, you even have Curtis leaving because it's like they invaded his personal privacy. Like, no matter what the circumstances are, like, the fact is that Oliver did this means that not just him, but Felicity and Diggle don't trust him even after everything they've been through. All working together and fighting together they've done, and it means absolutely nothing. Especially considering, let's not forget what we just left off of. We literally just left off Crisis on Earth X, and Oliver doesn't trust them. That's even more of a, like, digging that knife even deeper. We literally went up against Nazis from a different world, and you still don't trust us. I'm surprised no one threw that in his face. That might come up later on, but that's basically what happened. So it's also just because Oliver, once again, it's the whole Evelyn Sharp thing. That was a betrayal he didn't see coming. And so for him, it's just like, it's sadly that situation where it's just like, I think Oliver just couldn't see so clearly because, like, everything's threatened, you know, because it's not only just his future. If it was just his life, I don't think he would have acted exactly the same way he did, but kind of the opposite of, like, not opposite, but the same as Renee. It's like, you endangered my future with my child. So that's what that all comes down to. So, I mean, because the sad thing is, ultimately, when it's all said and done, like, Renee is the smoking gun. They never had a smoking gun about Oliver being a Green Arrow until he stepped in. So I would assume that means he is still going to testify, because Zoe's like, tell me I'm never going to have to leave again. And he's like, no, we're not. You're not. You're going to be here. I won't let anyone take you. So I think that's setting up the fact is that he is still going to testify. And... the whole situation just leaves you very conflicted. You're just like, leaves you very brokenhearted, because it's like, is this something that they can really come back from? Because as we saw with situations like this in the past, like exactly when this exact same thing happened in season 4, like Oliver basically kind of took everything on by himself. So, but there was kind of an interesting thing. There was a conversation between Laurel and Quentin, which really quickly, I love that moment of Quentin giving Oliver that watch. That was such a beautiful moment, because like, it's a shame you won't have any, you know, you won't you can't have your family, your parents here, and it's like Lance was kind of stepping in. Well, I'm like, that's so beautiful, especially considering the fact is showing you how far Lance and Oliver have come in the sense of like, man, the fact of the matter is like he hated Oliver before, but seeing where they are now and that bond is like almost like a son to him, I thought that was kind of cool. And that watch that was passed down in his, like it was from his father, and now Lance is giving it to Oliver, I guess, because Oliver's like the closest thing he has to a son. I was like, that's so cool. It also makes you wonder what the situation means going forward between, I mean, especially because let's not forget, like Renee also works with Oliver in the mayor's seat. I guess that's done too, which also means what does that mean between Quentin and Renee? Because it's like, what happened, you know? Because Quentin knows more so than anything that the reason why Renee would do anything is for his daughter, because Quentin himself would do the same exact thing. And kind of talking about that, we had them interacting a little bit. Quentin and Laurel. I thought it was kind of interesting because she ended up bringing up the fact is that she hasn't really known her dad since she was 13 because he died like picking up a birthday cake. And it's like, and he's like, I'm sorry, because basically all you have is me. Because anytime Quentin looks at her, he sees this little girl, the little girl that he raised, who looks exactly the same ages and everything. But for her, it's just like when she looks at him, it's probably a reminder why she kind of hates him so much. It's like why she took him shooting her so personally is because it's like the fact of the matter is you look like a man that I don't remember. I never got to know, throughout a lot of my life. So probably more than like half her life or something. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think about. Then again, it's like, or is that all part of the plan? Because the moment like Caden found out about that device not being real, that it was tampered with, I was like, whoa. I was like, don't tell me Curtis betrayed them or something. I was like, what's going on there? And it's like, no, because the moment Black Siren hit their base, like in the premiere, she set up cameras, so that's how they knew. And it turns out this runs deeper than we thought it did. Because not only is he working with Diaz, aka Dragon, he's also working with Anatoly, and he's working with Vincent too. And it's like, holy crap, this little group, like everything in this was conspired to create this situation. Which now also begs the question, like, the fact is those cameras have been set up since the beginning of the season. That means even Diggle's situation, like playing out the way it did, maybe that was also orchestrated, or was it just a situation where it's like Caden was like, no, I'm gonna take advantage of this like after the fact? Like, is this teamwork after the fact, or have they been working together since like season 1? So does that mean he's known about Diggle's condition? That's why he knows everything he knows about them, and maybe ultimately Caden will be able to use this to help Agent Watson kind of screw Oliver over more. It's just like, it sucks, dude. Like, everything gets worse, and this also means Dinah's joining up with someone that can't be trusted. Does that mean that everything Vigilante's been doing has been for Caden's sake? Is this all for the purposes of, because he wants to destroy Star City, and wants to destroy Green Arrow for killing his son, whatever the case may be? We still haven't really dived into that. But why the best thing to do that is to destroy Oliver and bring in Anatoly, person who knows Oliver the best. Because it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is when things kind of get tough, Oliver tends to push away the people he cares about most. So it's just like everything that's happened so far this season is just little pieces coming together. It's like, I think this is our first time ever having like a big group of bad guys against Oliver. I mean, obviously like a big group of main tier people, because obviously he's had the League of Assassins, he's had Slade come after him, he's had Malcolm. Like, because, I mean, to be fair, he had Hive and all of, like, Damien Dark, but it's just like, this is like a top tier group. This is almost like a little, almost Legion of Doom-esque thing. So I am curious to see what Vigilante's whole thing is, because it's like, you are against bad guys and stuff like you claim to be, but not unless he's more of a hired gun that everything Vigilante has subsequently done. I mean, Caden got released last season, but Vigilante was doing stuff way before then. So maybe it's something like eventually Caden came to him and it's like, oh, well, the fact is Caden wants to destroy the city. So it's like, well, the fact of the matter is, I guess it's like in Vince's mind, it's like, oh, that's the perfect thing to do. That's the right thing to do. This city can't be safe. Best way to enact justice is do that. So maybe he wants Dinah by his side, not necessarily just to use her, but to get her out of the crossfire, because he does legitimately still care about her. So like I said, overall, a crazy mid-season finale. So we have to wait a little while for the season to return, which will be January 18th. I'm super excited to see where everything goes from here, because just like I said, Team Arrow looks very dire, especially considering the fact is, well, Oliver's the only one that is really in a position to kind of go out there. And also, let's not forget, this is also him still being a Green Arrow, and there's a whole situation about him and William. So, he's still lying to William, and I think eventually that's going to come out, and what will that mean going forward for their relationship? We will just have to wait and see what happens when the show returns. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.